first. I've never recorded in here before. If you talk really loud, here's a microphone. You can say hi to Maddie. Maddie's having surgery.
Hi, Maddie.
She can listen to you laugh anytime.
Can she see this on the board right now?
She can see the writing. She doesn't see us. And then it sounds like someone got murdered when this falls down every time. Because it's really loud. Because you turn the volume up really loud to hear it at home because it kind of goes in and out. And then the microphone falls, and then you have your volume up all the way on the computer, and it scares you. Sometimes when I have a sub, I record the notes ahead of time because, sometimes sub days, when you see a sub, you're like, yes, we're doing nothing. But I like to record my notes so you still have to take notes when I'm not here. And then this falls down, and it scares you and then they yell at me the next day. What an awful noise, and it's just this falling and making a giant noise. I like to factor. I told you on Friday I like to factor, and I still like to factor, which means I'm going to multiply these two together and say, can I think of what multiplies to give me 8 that adds to give me -9, -8x, and -1x? If you stink at this way of factoring, do the quadratic formula. You get the same answer. But I love to factor, so I wish there was like a job where I could just sit around and factor all day. I would be the best at it.
Would you do it every day?
I would. They just gave me like 100 problems a day to factor, and then they paid me. I would be like, whoa, done!
Millions of dollars?
That would be even better, but if I could just go to work and factor. Or the rational expressions where you get to factor and cancel stuff out, oh man, that would be my dream job. No rotten children to deal with. No papers to read.
Chase. Kids like to sit in class.
He's not sleeping in my class yet. His sister used to try to sleep in my class.
She said she did.
She may be there.
Wow. Don't take after her.
And if this was an equation, this is what we did in section 6. This is what we did on the worksheet that I graded this weekend. Those would be your answers, yes?
C.
But it's not an equation, it's an inequality. So if you remember the shortcut, we said less than means and, greater than means or, unless that x squared's negative and then things are weird. But it's positive there, so less than means and. So that means if you graphed this, and would be what's in the middle, so your answer there would be 1/4 to 2. Make sure your answers are in integral notation. Shortcuts are great, but then you run into 15. 15 you cannot do shortcut on. Chase, did you do this homework, everybody? So Shay, you should at least be checking that I'm doing this for you.
Sorry, Chase.
You can check it.
You didn't even do them. Yeah, I didn't even do it.
Yeah, because I didn't do 18 and 21. You were supposed to.
That?
Really?
I don't know. It wasn't me.
I didn't hear it.
So 15, yes, was on the back of the book, and maybe you just wrote it down, looked at the back of the book, and wrote the answer down, and were like, woohoo, I got it right. But this is not a quadratic, which means you cannot do the quadratic formula, first of all. And second of all, you can't use the shortcut if it's not a quadratic, because it's not going to be just an and or an or. But we could factor this. What could you factor out of this?
X.
And you'd be left with x squared minus 1. And then could I factor that into x minus 1 and x plus 1?
Yes. Yes.
Or you could do the quadratic formula from there, or set it equal to 0. I think you get 3 answers on this. You get x equals 0, x equals 1, and x equals -1. True?
True.
So if you graph this, it's not a parabola. It has 3 zeros. It's going to go through the x-axis. It can be up and down and all that fun stuff. I don't really care what the graph looks like, but we have to figure out where would we shade this. We have 4 parts of this graph. There is no shortcut. You have to just check which ones work. Which means you have to pick a number less than -1. I'm going to pick -2. And plug it into the problem and see if it's true or not. If I plug -2 in here, -2 to the third is -8 minus -2 is greater than or equal to 0. Is true? Negative 8 plus 2 is greater than 0? Not true. Not going to shade there. Then I have to pick a number between negative 1 and 1. Oh my gosh, I have to pick a fraction or a decimal. No, you guys love decimals, so you're going to pick that. But I'm going to pick negative 1/2. What's wrong? I was doing it right, I just didn't label it right. Because negative 1 and 1, I should just pick 0. Someone just has to keep me in line here. Negative 1 to 0, I'm going to pick negative 1/2. And if I plug negative 1/2 in there, I'm going to get negative 1/8 minus negative 1/2 becomes plus 1/2. And again, use a calculator, use decimals if you want. Boys, what are you looking at? Shoes, a bug, what's down there that's so exciting? Paper. Did you find it?
How'd you get that?
That's not false.
That's why I don't record in this class.
That's right.
1/2 is bigger than 1/8, so since it's positive, that is going to be a positive number. So that means this is going to work. You have to check the rest of them, because this one could work also, or it could be this one, or both of them could work. But I'm going to check a half, and if I plug 1/2 in there, I'm going to get 1/8 minus 1/2. Is that positive or negative? That's negative, so that's not going to work. What if I pick a number bigger than 1? I'm going to pick 2, and I'm going to get 8 minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. Yes. This is how you could do every inequality. You could check them. But we have that nice shortcut. Less than means and, greater than means or. Use the shortcut if you want, but on a problem like 15, there is no shortcut. You have to just check the intervals. And I want your answer in interval notation. Brackets, because of the line, you should say, the back of the book says, negative 1 to 0, union, what? 1 to infinity. Union. And that's what's next. I told you this. I need names.
Should we put them on the bus?
I told them to tell you they were.
Yep.
Oh, Grady.
Grady was here.
Take some points off of it.
I told them to tell you every day there's no more quiz from now on, like after you have one, so then every day you'll think there is one, and then you'll stop listening to it. That's what I would do if I had the early.
Grady's on this.
38, Taylor, is that what you said?
34.
34, 30.
You just do your whole homework assignment? How many problems did you have to do?
17.
Count them.
Chase them. So I'm going to chase them.
9? 9? Did you factor? Oh, 9 homework problems? I thought you meant you wanted over 9. Alright, how about 38? I'll just talk to you about them. You have to do it. How about that? Did you get any of 34? That's what I really didn't know.
It's not just me.
It's not just me. 38 says, for a certain gas, P equals 400 over V, where P is pressure and V is volume. That's Boyle's law. If V is between 20 and 40, what is the corresponding range for P? What do you think that means to do? What does range mean? No.
Average.
No. I don't mean that kind of range. Like, where else do we hear the word range in algebra? What?
So to so.
Like,
X to X.
sometimes we say domain, right?
Yeah.
What does range mean? Domain and range. What does range mean in that sense? The y's, right? There's no y's in this, but you notice they give you the v values. The v is between 20 and 40. So if they ask for the range of this, what do you think they're asking for? But what's y in this? Instead of y, it's what's in place of y? Where y normally is, what letter is there? what do you think you could do? Is 20 the smallest V could ever be? What are you going to get if you put 20 in there for V? Come on, kids. You gotta work with me here. 40 divided by 2 is 20. What if we plug 40 in there? 40 is the biggest that the volume is ever going to be. 10. So if the volume has to be restricted between 20 and 40, plug those in, and what's my pressure going to be in between?
30.
What's the biggest the pressure's ever going to be? 20. What's the smallest the pressure's ever going to be? 10. Because anything in between there is going to give me values in between 10 and 20. So the pressure has to be less than or equal to 20, greater than or equal to 10. That is the range.
I just did. To be honest, I didn't try.
It was words and you just don't read. We have to try on these problems. People always say, well, why do I have to know this? Well, probably you've been told in your life before that math and science are best friends because you do a lot of math and science class.
We didn't work chemistry.
Chemistry is math, yes. And so people always want to know, why do I have to learn this? Well, a lot of times there's a word problem that can relate that to you. So if you don't want to do word problems, you're not going to see where it works. Boils on. Ask me sound about boils on. 34 is just like the one that we did in our notes. So did you do part A on 34 or A had words too, so you didn't even try? You didn't even write down 34?
I just copied that down for 34.
Oh, Brandon.
Wow, you got shit right now.
So, on your test, which is going to be when? Wednesday. There's going to be a problem just like the one we did in our notes that's just like 34, where they're going to give you some information and ask you to find when it reaches a certain height. So it says that a projectile is launched straight up from the ground at ground level with an initial velocity of 272 feet, just like what we did in our notes, which means the initial velocity is 272 feet. From ground level means 0, and they ask you in part A to find when will the projectile's height above ground be 960 feet. So this is the new height, so we set it equal to 960. You've got to be able to plug your numbers in there, and you have to be able to solve this quadratic equation. Just like the one we did in our notes on Friday, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move this to the other side because I like my square term to be positive. And just like the one we did in our notes on Friday, I think all of that's divisible by 16, which makes things a lot nicer, even if you're going to do the quadratic formula. I forget what it is. Someone tell me the number. Anybody?
It's 17 and then 60.
66. Someone did some work. Again, if you don't like to factor, then quadratic formula or completing the square is going to work here. This one turns out to be factorable. If it wasn't factorable, you'd still have to do it. You couldn't say there's no answer. You'd still have to do the quadratic formula. But I think this is factorable because 12 times 5 gives you 60, and negative 12 and negative 5 give you 17. But that doesn't give you a positive 60, right? Right, because that's positive, they have to be the same sign. And so we get two answers, just like we did on Friday. We get 12 seconds and 5 seconds. And you remember, we talked about on Friday, why do we get two answers here? It goes up and it goes down, right? So for part A, it says, like, those are your answers, because at 5 seconds and at 12 seconds, we are going to say it's 960 feet, right? It's a parabola. If you get part A, part B and C is just practicing with inequalities. Like there's nothing else to solve for except for to think about it. That's why I drew the picture here. Part B says, when will the projectile's height above ground be more than 960 feet?
5.1 seconds.
More than 5 seconds, but less than 12 seconds, right? But not just, you can't say 5.1. You'd have to, like, you could say, because it's a story problem, you could say more than 5 seconds, less than 12 seconds. I'd count it right. But in interval notation, could I say from 5 to 12 seconds, like that? Does that mean everything bigger than 5 but less than 12?
No.
Why not?
Yes.
Why did you say no? What should I say then? Yes, but we like interval notation. But you could draw an inequality. You could say everything bigger than 5 but less than 12. I'm okay with that. But anywhere here, we're not including 5 and 12 seconds. The reason I put parentheses around it is because at 5 seconds is exactly 960 feet. I want more than 960 feet. What about part C? Part C says, when will it be less than or equal to 960 feet? When will the projectile be less than or equal to 960 feet? So if between 5 and 12 seconds is when it's more than 960 feet, would this section of the graph be less than 960 feet? What would that be? From what to what? From 0 seconds to 5 seconds. Yes? The book says this, 0 to 5, like that. They didn't include 0 because at 0 seconds, it's at 0 feet, but I put a bracket around my 0 because that's still a height, so I would count either one of those. But 5 would be included because it said less than or equal to. Would it also be less than 960 feet after 12 seconds? But I'm not going to say 12 to infinity. Can we figure out where this stops? Like at what second does it reach the ground again? What did you say? 17. How did you get 17? Because it took 5 seconds to go up, 5 seconds to come down. Parabolas are symmetric. So we could also say from 12 seconds, and again, they didn't include 17, I did, but they didn't include it because it hits the ground. So the 0 feet is a height also. Parabolas are, yes. Okay, so you're going to see that again in your near future. So if you didn't have any clue how to do 34, you got to practice those because they're going to be in the near future. 18 and 21 are the graphing calculators. We did this the other day, finding zeros so that we could do these problems. So we'll do 18 together and then you're going to do 21 real quick. Oh, I forgot. You have one? Did you not bring yours?
I bring mine. I thought I wasn't able to use it. Understood that. Is this one file for it's charged? No.
So remember, turn this on, go to y equals.
X, 9x squared plus 12x minus 1.
And put number 18 in there.
It's already in there, I think.
That's probably number 21.
9x.
Oh no, maybe it is 18. Maybe it's not 21. Is that right? Is 9x squared 18 or 21? Alright, apparently 21 is in there because it's all still in there. So did you leave that in there or did you, let's just do it. 12x squared minus 25x. Remember that your x is up here by alpha, 12x squared minus 25x plus 12. And to make it all the same, if your graph doesn't look right, remember zoom number 6 will get you the standard 10 by 10 window, and it should look maybe something like that. You can if you want. Let's zoom in, enter. You have to hit enter if you're going to zoom in.
That looks better.
Oh, it looks so nice now if you hit zoom in. Zoom in, enter if you want. Remember that the reason it says solve graphically is we could actually graph these by hand, but I wanted to remind you how to whether it's less than or greater than, to figure out if it's an and or an or. Remember to do the zeros, you hit second calc. Number 2 is 0, second trace, I guess.
You said it's standard,
Zoom 6. And remember, if you hit 0, it asks you for the left bound, the right bound, and to guess. So if I want to find this 0, I need to use my arrow.
where's my map? Where's my map?
You just have to keep going until you get it on the screen. Like mine wasn't on the screen either. So are you still zoomed in?
When you go left with 0,
Go left of the 0, hit enter.
and to the right.
Go to the right, which means past it. You have to go above and below it, basically. And then it asks you to guess, which I think should be 0.75.
Where would we guess at?
Well, just try to get close to it. Who needs help?
I got 0.75. Oh, you got changed.
You have to hit 0 first. This is left bound. And then you
I was
hit
invented.
Yeah, you were too busy making
Yeah.
spider
Yeah.
webs.
and now since it's right back, it's not very past it.
I'm not sure it's press
You
trace.
don't want to go below.
Is that what I
You
did?
can't go all the way to the next 0. There's not even a time limit.
Ugh, I didn't get it right.
Yeah. And guess. Try to get kind of close to it. Yeah, that's like 0.
Zero, but this is like,
Alright.
It should be 0.75. Anybody need help getting 0.75?
Yes, me. They were awful. Which 0 do we guess?
Well, I'm working on this one right now.
Oh, I choose to put some.
You can't do it both at the same time. They can't handle it.
1.3.
0.75, all right, yeah, there we go.
So that means you just do the other one. And now go past it. Then we're going to go all the way to the next one. That's right. Now yes. Thank you. So if you got the first one on your paper for number 18, you could write x equals 0.75, so that way you don't forget, or 3/4 if you love fractions. And now you need to find the other 0. Okay, so now you need to hit second calc again, and you need to go to the left and to the right of it, and then guess in the middle. And it should be, I'll tell you, 1.3333. Left on this side would be below, and right would be above. So you have to always go below and above it. Don't go past the next 0.
I got you.
1.33333.
What would that be as a fraction? 1.33333333.
5. Could just put 2 over.
Oh my goodness.
I don't like this ridiculousness. Let's write that as a fraction. What's 1.333333 as a fraction?
We didn't write the first one as a fraction.
I know, but I'm going to. This is okay, because 0.75 is a terminated, right? But I'm going to write that as 3/4. What's 0.3 repeating as a fraction?
3 with a
As a fraction.
2/3.
1/3. So this would be 1 1/3, or that's the same as 4/3. 1 1/3, or you can write 1 1/3, right? 4 divided by 3 is 1.3333. Was this, this was greater than or equal to 0? So what's the shortcut say? Is this an and or an or? So that means your answer would be everything less than this, but greater than this. So in interval notation, you should say from negative infinity to 3/4, or 0.75. And, oh wait, should that be a bracket? It should be a bracket.
Stops.
And a bracket from 4/3 to infinity. You try number 21 on your own, graph it, and it doesn't work out as nicely. They're ugly decimals, so you just have to round your decimal. See if you can get your 2 answers. And then your homework will be done. I've done 5 of 9 homework problems for you.
Y equals.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Obviously, because you lost.
But I'm doing all your homework.
What?
We're beautiful.
Wow.
Finish it. What's the rest of the time?
Keep going. Keep going. So, yeah, keep going.
Come on, Brady, go. 9x squared plus 12x minus 1, and it's also greater you should have a 0 that's negative and a 0 that's positive. So sometimes zooming helps you go around the 0 better. So let me know if you get it. That's what we are. And then it's also greater than or equal to, I think. So you're going to have brackets and an or statement in there. And then as you finish this, I will take your calculators.
And I got some nasty lessons.
Yes, so just round to 2 or 3 decimal places. This means if we try to solve this, we have to go under a formula. That's fine.
I don't think I did it right.
No, that's perfect. That's what I answered.
So what do we do?
So just write that number, or round to double decimals, or write them all down. That's what they're doing. Did you do that one? You find both zeros, right? Like there's 2 zeros. Did you find both of these? Did you write it in or with the U?
I'm working on it.
Okay, there's no need to feel busy. Yes. And so now you're doing it. Now you have to go back here. So you have to go to the left of it. So to the left of this zero will be up here.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And now the right's going to be going up. Who else needs help? Anyone else? Secretaries. Perfecto. Probably not. What? Who do you play? Okay, but my son has football practice today and tomorrow and a game on Wednesday and pump patch and cake competition on Thursday and practice on Friday and another game Saturday morning. And I just don't know if I would have the energy to go to your football game with all that. And I have to teach. And I have a 1.5-year-old. If I did come to your game, I would leave at halftime because it would be past my baby bedtime. Yes, I have 2 boys. Parker and Noah. Adorable. Who's baby you ever seen? He's terrible. But I still love him. He likes to throw things at the TV, and then when you tell him no, he likes to headbutt you or the TV or the floor.
More?
I'm not even headbutting the floor.
That's always good.
How's breathing? Who else need help with this? Are we not done with this? Yeah, that's fine.
Good.
We are going to have a homework quiz, which means you need all of your homework that we've done so far in chapter P.
Whoa.
Ready, go. Get it out.
Does that mean you're collecting it?
No,
You don't collect on it.
not till Wednesday. When we have a test, we'll turn in all of our homework. But you need your homework for your homework quiz. Who else has a graphic calculator? What did I just do? I will tell you that this has P1, P2, P5, P6.
No P7?
No P7. So weird.
That's the only one I did use.
We get one of those calculators over there?
If you need one, yes.
Oh, so we need all of them.
You need all your homework. Who needs a calculator? Calculator. Who wants calculator? Calculator.
Me.
Oh, you can use that.
Sit down with Kurt.
Is that what it is? Sorry. Did you ask for this? Who asked for this?
Heard.
Gear and sticks. Brandon, gear. Just call me your dad.
You can use your notes and your hey, clean up your register.
If you were that person behind presentation forever.
You already told me.
Were you the boss there,
Well,
supervisor?
I was the assistant head cashier.
Oh,
Very good.
On this,
That's how it was.
And you were for
gosh, it's so keyboards.
Oh my gosh. So, now I'm just listening to this.
I say write it all down, but you do whatever you want to do.
I was just gonna write the answer.
If you miss it and you don't have work to go with it, I can't give you partial credit. Does that make sense? So my advice is if you have work,
What's this is?
24 points.
Oh my gosh.
So if you have to work with it, how, just work with it, some, that's not work, like that.
Why don't you
Okay,
just start
then you
saying-
just write it down. But I'm saying if you have work on your paper, I think you should copy it onto this paper so you can get partial credit. If you don't have work with it, it's okay. But he's saying he's just copying the answer, he's not copying his work. You with me on that? You do what you want to do. It's your paper. I'm just saying don't complain if I take the points there.
Are you gonna be mad that I have my decimals? Oh, wait, put a smiley face there.
Hey, what is this?
4 plus I all over 2 plus I.
This one.
So we can't use that thing for this, right?
Right, well, you should. It's a learning curve. You're a little bit better than you do.
This is terrible.
Mr. Dorsey.
Mr. Wilson.
Does this count as work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not required to have work together. I'm just saying if you have
Well,
work.
you said if you get it wrong, you still get partial.
Right, like if I can see what you did, then I can be like, oh, you did this, and then I can give you some partial points. So grade these tonight and get them back to you tomorrow. Well, because we have a test Wednesday, so I want you to have it back to, that's okay. Let's see, sometimes, most of the time. Because it'll ask today at lunch how much time we spend the weekend on school stuff. Because she feels like she spends way too much time. And I said, probably between 2 and 6 hours. Like a minimum, I work at least 2 hours on the weekend next to her, sometimes 6 hours.
See, if you didn't sign up,
Doing too much.
we could just fix it.
Did we not have?
2 to 5 we did on the same day, like I bet it's done. Right, like I think this is 5.
You're supposed to wait when you're home.
I know we did, that's it. But see, your numbers show over, like this is 5. In second hour, some of them wanted the review assignment that I'm gonna give you tomorrow so that they could work on it tonight. So they could ask questions tomorrow in class instead of work on it. So I'm gonna put an assignment up here.
Good job.
So Chase just said, let's just work this out. And I said, all right, didn't tell you.
Just work it out just in case. Say it's over.
No, it just stops. I don't pay a finish.
Well, I don't put my work with my
She said, that's terrible. You have to do a better job with that. We have to do better. Starting with chapter 1, we cannot just number our paper. That's what we do in 6th grade. We just number our paper. But we have
So
to
you're
go.
gonna just have anarchy, no numbers?
I want you to have number and then work and answer. And number and work and answer. No, I cannot handle that. How have your math teachers let you do such things?
They don't complain when I show up because it's you can tell like by like the answer will be under the work, so it's like
Which is just, so you're just creating more work for yourself when you could just number this and this would be your homework.
well, it would have to be like I don't know if that might be an answer, but I
Hey, do your best.
Oh, I didn't finish this one. At least I don't think so.
so that's why you gotta do your homework, right?
What is that?
Homework quizzes make you learn to do
Gosh darn it.
I really don't think you guys play.
Lindsay was still nice. That's seriously.
Not with you.
You want this?
I do. Thank you. Are you finished?
What are we doing after this?
Partying.
No, we're done for
Class
today.
is almost over. We only have like 7 minutes of class left.
I don't know if I can do this time.
15.
I can't party this 7 minutes.
I was pretty close to just guessing right there.
I don't
It's
know
gonna
about
be
that.
yes. If you need to stay after, Joe, you can stay to passing period. And I'll write you past to get advanced period.
That's actually not cool.
Yeah. Not too bad about that. Are you a junior or a senior? You're a senior. You're a junior. You're a junior. So you're gonna take calculus next year?
Actually, like math classes, it only lasts an hour.
Why do you complain so much? It's just like you hate it.
It doesn't matter.
Ask me. Oh, I know what I said about this one. Well,
What do you say?
if she remembers.
I put this assignment up here because this is the review assignment I'm gonna give you tomorrow. The test is on Wednesday. So some people in second hour said they wanted the assignment today so they could start on it tonight, have less homework tomorrow, and already know what questions they could ask me. You don't have to have this due until Wednesday, but you don't have any other assignment tonight. So if you wanna write this down, you can. If not, I'll give it to you tomorrow. But I just wanna say that in case it ever
Is that June tomorrow?
due Wednesday.
Alright.
So you don't, if you don't think you're working tonight, you
Is there a square button?
You do like this?
yes. Oh, Joe.
Whoa. Is really bad?
Square root of 15 and 1/4.
You like that?
No,
Hey, I
I
did
don't.
fractions. I did fractions.
Oh man, you get bonus points for that.
No.
Exercise, do that.
I try to steal Joe's every day.
Oh shit, no. Seems like it's someone trying to do something.
You're right. If not, this is Mason. Silver trophy. Oh my gosh, I'm still recording.
Alright, here you go. Bye, Maddie.